Welcome to the Ogles channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. And today focusing on a game called Rtype DX for the Game Boy Color. Now this is basically Rtype 1 and Rtype 2 squished together into one single game, and the DX part means you're going to play them back to back, so it's like one cohesive game. Now you can put this in a regular Game Boy, and you could play Rtype 1 or Rtype 2 individually. But if you want to play the adventure all together as in one cohesive unit, you do have to play Rtype DX. And I have to say, the coloring for this game is through the roof. It looks fantastic. Part 1 Rtype looks good, but Part 2 is just like almost like a 16-bit looking game. I'm surprised they did this as far as like early in the Game Boy Color's life cycle here, because it definitely looks like a later life cycle game, especially like I said in that Part 2. Now there's a side-scroller space shooter here. It's very similar to like Life Force or Gradius or Nemesis over if you're in the UK there. But it's very much of a similar gameplay style, but you are going to get your own little unique twist on it, because you do get like a little extra pod that's going to act like a secondary spaceship that you can use for a lot of different strategy inside the game and for your upgrades and such. And so it's a really fun game through and through, but it does get very, very difficult. But the game is also very forgiving because it gives you unlimited continues to journey your way through, or you can just simply start in whichever level you want as you're journeying through it. So the game is hard, but at the same time, it's also very fair in its opportunities. Now, Rtype DX did get moved up on our queue a good bit because the mystery driver requested with my earlier videos. And if there's a game that you want to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of the game in the comments down below. And just like Rtype DX, I'll move it right on up. Now, I like to start the videos up looking at the box art for the game first. And the box art here really does describe the game pretty much perfectly, because you have your little spaceship off to the side that you can be commanding, your little pod out in front of you, your little lasers going off, and then off to the right we have one of our Bido Empire aliens, actually the first boss inside the game. And some of the aliens are like sort of xenomorph-ish, and this one got a little bit of a xenomorph look to it, also like a little baby xenomorph down at the bottom there as well. But this is the first boss inside the game. Looks just like he does in the actual sprites there. The only difference in the game versus the cover art here is the mouth on the creature is actually green inside the game. Gives a little more of a wacky look. It actually looks a little bit better here on the box art. But outside of that, all the eyeballs are intact. There's a little flaming tail out there. All that's intact. A great cover for the game, and it really does summarize exactly what this game is going to be about. Now when you load it up here, you have a great background music sort of accompanying the opening of the game. Very much of a haunting space isolation type theme. I'll let a little bit of it play right here. Overall, like, the music is great throughout the entire game, but I don't know, there's something about this opening track that I just really do enjoy quite a bit. And you're not really going to get like a lot of storyline as far as like if you play the DX version, which is both of the games sort of put back to back, but you're essentially fighting against the Bido alien invasion that has come into planet Earth, and you're commanding this little ship over here, and you're sort of like our planet's last hope to defend off against this Bido invasion. And I have to say, every time I say Bido, I keep thinking of Birdo from Super Mario Bros. 2. And those are totally different things. We're talking about an alien xenomorph ferocious force versus this cute little dinosaur-like creature from Mario. So don't get too confused if I end up saying the incorrect term as we go. But we started up here, and there are 11 stages in the DX version. So stages 1 through 5 are Rtype 1, and 6 through 11 are going to be Rtype 2. I think I got that right. Actually, 1 through 6 is Rtype 1, and 7 through 11 will be Rtype 2. Sorry about that. But stage 1, you start up here, and you are this cute little ship off to the left-hand side. And I don't know, like, I'm used to some of like the Gradius games or Life Force or some of the other ones, and the ships are usually more, I guess, I don't know, technical or mechanical. This one has like a little bit of a bubbly feel to it, almost like a Blaster Master type look, and sort of a cartoony to a degree, which was a little bit more of a departure than what I was expecting. But if you look at the box art of the game, it's pretty darn close to that. Now when you start off here, you only have 2 different types of attacks. You can either press the A button repeatedly, shoot out like little missiles in front of you, or you can hold the A button down to charge it up and shoot out a charge shot, which can go through multiple enemies at once. And most of the enemies at this stage are going to be mostly your traditional space shooter type enemies, very geometric shapes, I guess, to represent different types of spaceships that are coming at you. But you are going to want to look out for these little gray fellas down here at the bottom that sort of run along the bottom of the screen. And sometimes they can float in the middle as well. But these little gray fellas are going to be things that give you your power-ups. Now, the first time you kill one, anytime you kill it, doesn't matter what's inside it, anything, you're always going to get your pod as your first power-up. Now, the pod is something you can either attach to the back of your ship or the front of your ship. And when you attach it to your ship, you're going to get an extra power-up, or as far as like an attack goes. And so anytime you see another one of those little gray creatures, sort of we talked about earlier, kill it, you're going to get like a little medal, and it's going to give you the opportunity to have like lasers or like extra little bubble shots out in front of you, or sometimes like little worms are going to shoot up and down and sort of follow the top and bottom of the screen. And so there's a lot of different power-ups that you can get here. You can stack the power-ups as you go, but you can also take that pod, you can press the B button, you can shoot that pod out in front of you, and that pod is going to have a different attack power, and it can stay hovered in front of you, sort of goes in the same vertical direction as you. You can position in different areas to sort of take enemies out as sort of a distance instead of waiting for them to get too close. So I would actually say there's probably more strategy in this R-Type game because of your different attack patterns than a game like Gradius and some of the other space shooters that I've gone through. Now when we get to the first boss of the game, it's actually the same alien. It's on the box art for the game. And you can see here a very similar art style for it. The only difference, like I said earlier, is going to be the center mouth is going to be green inside the game. And that's going to be the part where you have to actually hit the most bullets at in order to take the alien out. But you can see like the little floating eyes up here and down below. You don't have to worry about those. It just simply adds to the cool aesthetic here. I recommend just sort of keeping your pod down the middle and just keep blasting away. Or you can just simply take your main ship down there, take a few hits, and move back up when he shoots out. Take your ship back down, move back up. He's one of the easier bosses in the game. It's a great little intro boss, but it is a really cool design for the boss itself. Now when you go into stage 2 is probably going to be my favorite level in the entire game here. It's basically really going to focus on the alien xenomorph I guess art style here. You have all these like what I'm going to assume are xenomorph corpses at the top and xenomorph corpses at the bottom. Why they're all dead, I don't know. And then some of these xenomorphs actually jump out from the top and the bottom and sort of crawl around on the screen here as you try to take them out. Overall, great aesthetics for this level. I love the xenomorphs. I love the possibility of the lore here of the Bido Federation, I'm going to call it. But you do have this little wormy little type alien that's going to lead you off to the final boss. And that little wormy type alien is actually going to be part of the boss itself. And so when you get here, it's like a, I guess sort of a fleshy mass down at the bottom of these little holes off to the side. And the worm is going to come in and out of these holes trying to attack you. Now all you have to do is simply attack the center of the little mass here out on the top. But that's actually sort of hard to get to. And so I recommend using your pod here. And I said there's strategy with your pod and actually sort of shoot it out in front of you and then sort of start pulling it back and get it stuck at the top there, and you can just simply keep blasting away and you can stay safely down your corner over here, and your pod will fight the entire battle for you and take out this little alien unit. Now in stage 3 here, we're basically fighting against a giant mothership, and so as you're going through here, you just sort of have to take out all the turrets as you go. I do get a weapon upgrade. It has like a little snake effect, so you shoot it up and it basically travels along the surface of the top or bottom of the screen here. It is excellent for this particular boss because all you're doing is taking out the turrets as you go. Makes this battle way, way easier. Now when I got to the end of the ship here, I went all the way to the far right and I was like, well, where do I go? How do I get up there and start taking out the other turrets? I can't like turn my ship around and attack the other direction. And I ended up having to like just simply take my ship up there and slowly pull it back from right to left and taking a few things out at a time. And then I got my little pod stuck down here at the, I guess the core of the ship. And I just simply took my ship back down to the bottom here in a safe spot and kept firing away. And I don't know how much HP this ship had, but I bet I fired away for like a solid 3 or 4 minutes before I finally defeated the ship. I actually wasn't even sure if it was going to work for a while, and I just simply was sort of sitting there, had my phone in one hand, just sort of looking at it while I was pressing the attack button toward the end, and then it said I won the battle, and I was like, oh, so I guess it did work. And so like this boss battle here is a little bit on the odd side because I'm not really sure like this was the way to go about it. If I was supposed to go along the top part of the ship instead of the bottom part, I don't know. It felt like this was sort of a almost like a glitch defeat to a degree. But anyway, this is a unique level in itself as far as like just simply taking on a giant mothership for the entire level itself. Now stage number 4 is going to remind me so much of a Mega Man stage. It's pitiful, and particularly Flashman stage for Mega Man as far as like the overall colors here, and even like the enemies are going to be going back and forth. These little I don't know, purple things are going back, I guess spaceships. They remind me of Mega Man of those little welding mask enemies that fly back and forth on the screen. And this level here is probably one of the hardest levels in the game because you're having to dodge all of these little welding looking enemies or spaceships, and make sure you don't hit the edge of any of the walls here. And it seems like some of the enemies here, the spaceships, they don't take the same path every time, so it's like actually sort of hard to predict which direction they're going to go in, and there's some really tight spaces you have to go through. And then when you get to the final boss of it, it's just going to be more of the little spaceships that are going to be journeying around the atmosphere. And the best place to camp that I could figure out is like right here, and you sort of use your laser in the back to take out the ones behind you and try to shoot the ones in front of you. And then for the most part, is a safe spot. You do have to move every now and then, but the boss is probably the easiest part of this level because the dodging in it is just incredibly precise, and it's going to take you a few tries to sort of get this one mastered. Now for stage 5, it's going to be a lot easier than stage 4, sort of going back to the traditional gameplay style here. It looks like you're going to like a Borg ship almost, and it very much feels like a trash receptacle, because it feels like there's trash all around, and even when you get to the final boss here, you're fighting like what looks like a little red horn off to the side, sort of blowing at you. Reminds me of a cartoon. I cannot think for the life of me which cartoon had like a little red horn. It looked like this. It would sort of have little eyes on top and would blow its horn out. I even tried to Google it. I can't figure it out. If you have any idea what I'm talking about, let me know in the comments down below, because there is some cartoon out there that this looks very, very similar to from like the 80s or the early 90s. But anyway, it even feels like in the boss battle here, like when he blows his horn, it feels like trash sort of falls from the ceiling. It really does feel like you're basically fighting a giant dumpster here. Not my favorite level aesthetic-wise, but it's definitely easier than the one before it. Now, stage 6 is going to be pretty straightforward. You're going through sort of a fleshy-looking environment. As you're journeying through here, you have these little green, elfish-looking creatures. They're going to sort of come out and try to attack you. There's not a lot of variety to this level. Really, it's mainly just these elves that are going to continue to attack you as you go. As long as you got some good power-ups, you can blast through this intro part pretty quickly. And then when you get to the boss here, it's going to be a very much of a alien organ-looking thing, but it has like little teeth in the front, and you can use your pod to basically just blast through, knock the teeth out, then put your pod into the main alien being itself and just blast away on the organ, and you will have him defeated pretty darn fast. This is a fairly easy battle and a fairly easy level. Now, when you finish this one up, you've actually finished up Rtype 1. And so the first half of the game is finished, and we're getting ready to journey into Rtype 2. So stage 7 here is really just simply stage 1 of the second game. But we're going to call it stage 7 since we're playing the DX version where they're all squished together. And when you start up here, you can tell a distinct difference in these two games. Rtype 2 is definitely much more detailed, much more chaotic, but the sprites here and the background graphics, man, this looks like a 16-bit game compared to the first one. I mean, like, the graphics here are really just top notch. This is some of the best graphics I've seen on a space shooter, and really some of the best graphics I've seen on the Game Boy Color. And really the idea that this is simply a launch title for the game, or maybe not launch, but very close to being a launch title for the game, this is really, really impressive. But not only is it more detailed, like sprite-wise and whatnot, they're also able to put like way more chaos on the screen. Like I said, it's a little bit more chaotic. And Rtype 2 is definitely going to be the harder of the two games. And so the first level here is sort of gearing you up for the difficulty. And when you get to the boss of stage 7 here, it's going to be a fantastic looking creature. And Rtype 2 seems to be more going for the techno-organic side of thing, while Rtype 1 was just simply the alien side. Rtype 2 has more like a trying to modify the alien beings to sort of mix the two together. And so you have this basically almost like humanoid robot off to the side, these little cords coming into the background of it, and you have to blast away the heart of it before the walls collapse behind you or sort of push you too far in. And so a really great looking boss as far as sprite wise goes, and really all the bosses in this game are pretty top tier. Some are going to be a little bit more on the unfair side, but they all have a really cool looking design. Now, stage number 8 is going to take a different direction here. It's going to be more of a water type stage, which I never expected a water type stage in a space shooter. But it's like you're inside of an alien being here, like on the alien planet maybe, and you can journey down beneath the water. And the physics actually change a little bit when you're underneath the water, and also like when you're trying to go up a waterfall here, the physics on that also match up with it. I was actually really impressed with the physics in the game for this particular level. And even the creatures inside this almost look like prehistoric alien creatures, like some of the same prehistoric marine life you'd see on planet Earth. They reminded me a lot of the same creatures you would see on this particular alien planet. And so I felt like that was a pretty cool, like little, I don't know, harkening back to, or illusion at least, like a pre-evolved civilization to a degree. I don't know. Like I said, I have no idea what the lore is for this game, but at least the design-wise intrigued me. And there was one that really did impress me. It was this like old ancient alien crab-looking thing. And you journey beneath it, and you can attack it on the top here. And it would have made a great boss design if they had chosen to go with a boss for this, but just simply a one-off enemy in the middle of the level. And not really hard, just simply a cool looking little set piece I just had to put in there. Now the boss for stage 8 here, I think it's a techno-organic alien turtle, but it could just simply be a regular alien prehistoric marine life creature. I'm not really sure. It was pretty darn cool looking, not super difficult. Honestly, the bosses so far in Rtype 2 have been easier as far as like the number of hits that it takes in Rtype 1, but that's going to change as we go. But I did enjoy this particular alien. Now stage 9 is going to feel like a full-on alien onslaught here as far as like an invasion goes. Reminds me a great deal of Contra 3 Alien Wars. Actually, this entire game reminds me of the Contra series a lot, because both of them deal with like xenomorph aliens and the invasion and all of that. I don't think there's any connection between the two. I don't think the companies are the same. Konami made Contra, and I don't believe I saw Konami's logo for this game here. But anyway, you have all these alien ships that are going to be coming at you. They all have like little turrets on them. They have like little green slime ghost things they're shooting out at you as well. And this level here actually gets pretty tough because like there's certain pathways you have to take that are definitely easier than other pathways. And sometimes you can get like stuck above a ship or below a ship, and there's no way to get out, and you just simply lose a life because of that. And so there are some really frustrating areas in this level. And so like the aesthetics are really good, but the gameplay itself for this one was not quite my favorite. But the more you play it, the more strategy you're going to develop. This is not one of those games where you can just sort of pick it up and expect to go through the entire game in one go. You're going to have to practice these levels a few times before you can actually make your way through them. Now the boss for this level is going to be a little bit less interesting than some of the other ones here. It's basically a giant alien box spaceship, and you take out the turrets on top, and then I just kept dropping bombs down into the side here, and after enough bombs were dropped into it, it blew up. And so not really my favorite boss. It actually took a lot more hits than the other ones that I've encountered so far in Rtype 2. Not my favorite level, not my favorite boss, probably on the lower side of the game for me. And then we get to stage 10, and stage 10 is the hardest stage in the entire game. You start off and you have these little worms that are coming out the top and the bottom of the screen, and from the left and from the right, and these worms are going to create walls in the screen itself in order for you to basically hit and blow up and you can't get through. So you have to hit the worms, like the head of them, to stop the walls from being built, or you have to wait for another worm to dig through it. And it's just so incredibly difficult trying to get this time just right, which ones to kill, where to position your ship. This level here is just incredibly difficult to get through. And then when you finally do get through it, you finally get to the boss here, and the boss itself is also incredibly difficult. So the hardest level coupled with the hardest boss in the game here. And what you have to do for the boss is like you have these 3 little glass containers off to the right hand side. You have to blow up all 3 little glass containers, and in order to get to it, you have to basically hit these little seesaw-y type things, blow through that. It sort of opens up for a second, fly in there, blast away, then get back, and then blast through again to attack the glass structures here. But I'm telling you, there are so many bullets that are flying around the screen here, it is almost impossible to dodge them all. And even like with the Game Boy technology, like sometimes there's too many sprites on the screen at once, and like the flash of it a little bit seems to take out some of the images, and so you have to like really watch carefully to see where the bullets are coming from, because they might actually just simply disappear when they get closer to you. But this boss here, least favorite in the boss in the entire game, least favorite level in the entire game. I'll give the level credit. It's a cool idea, but it's very hard. Now stage 11 is also pretty difficult here, but it reminds me so much of like a space shooter taking place in Simon's Quest or Castlevania 2 for the NES. Like the aesthetics here just look so much like Simon's Quest to me. But you're journeying through here. Worms are going to come from the top of the screen, the bottom of the screen. They're not the ones that are building walls. These are ones you can actually kill off. And you have these little green alien ships that are coming out as well, almost look like green ticks. They're coming to attack you. I don't know exactly what they are, but there's not a lot of variety to this stage. And when you get to the close of it here, the boss here is going to be the final boss inside the game. And it's basically like a giant machine here that has 2 embryos in it, and it's like techno-organic, and they're using these embryos to create more ships for the alien race. It's a really cool like aesthetic here, and you basically sort of have to blast your pod in there, take out the 2 embryos, and once you've taken them out, the ship itself blows up, and you have saved the world from the Bido Empire. And there's a little cutscene of you like flying out from the alien spacecraft here, saying that you've defeated it. And at that point, the credits do begin to roll. And at this point, you have officially beaten R-Type DX, and I have to say, like, this is a really fantastic game for the system. I feel like, especially for Part 2, it really does push the boundaries as far as like what the graphical capabilities of a space shooter could be. There really wasn't a whole lot of slowdown on it. There was a few flashy graphics as far as like a few too many sprites on the screen, but the slowdown really didn't take effect like it sometimes does in these old games when there's tons of sprites on the screen. But overall, I would say I liked R-Type 1 better than R-Type 2. I know they're sort of pushed together here for a DX version, but if I was going to separate them, I think I liked R-Type 1 as far as like the overall aesthetics wise. I enjoy just simply the pure alien base, and I like the simplistic gameplay a little bit more as far as like the level design. R-Type 2 definitely had better graphics. The techno-organic was a really cool idea, and I really did enjoy like the lore behind like at the end with the embryos breeding extra, mechanical different spaceships and whatnot. So some cool lore implications, but I feel like for most of the overall aesthetics for the game, R-Type 1 had the better aesthetics, at least in my opinion, but I like more of a traditional, alien lore on that. I will have to say the game felt a little bit on the imbalanced side. Like sometimes you have like a really easy level, and then you have like an impossibly hard level, and then it was like a little really easy level followed up behind that, and then a really hard level, but then with a really easy boss, and then a really easy level with a boss that would take like 1,000 hits to actually kill off. And so like some of the stuff felt like it was just a little bit unbalanced as I was going through it. But even outside of that, like the game is not impossible. It gives you plenty of continues, plenty of tries to jump back into it. You can select whichever level you want to go through to practice. This is not a game you're going to beat first try. You're going to have to memorize some parts of the levels, work through it a few different times in order to finally conquer the level. But I'm telling you, like when you finally do, like you feel like you truly did earn that particular victory for that level. And I do enjoy that feeling inside of a game. So overall, I'm going to give Rtype DX an 8 out of 10. I think it's a great game. I feel like if you haven't played it before, I feel like it's definitely one you should add to your collection or at least give a full playthrough of. But what are your thoughts? Do you enjoy Rtype DX? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.